Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something a little different.
Okay.
The concept of deep learning itself.
Right.
You've shared excerpts from Arthur J. Murray's Deep Learning Manual,
Uh-huh.
and I'm really curious to see where this takes us.
It's a fascinating approach.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
The manual pushes us to shift our focus
Mm-hmm.
from just what we're learning to why we're learning it.
Okay.
It's about rediscovering the joy of learning through self-discovery, not just memorization.
I was struck by the manual's emphasis on going old school,
Oh, yeah.
ditching the screens for a good old-fashioned pencil and paper.
Yeah.
What's the thinking behind that?
It ties into the core distinction the manual makes between
Okay.
surface learning and deep learning.
Okay.
Surface learning is what many of us are accustomed to,
Right.
memorizing facts for a test and then promptly forgetting them.
Yeah.
Deep learning, on the other hand,
Mm.
is about truly understanding and internalizing information.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I remember cramming for history exams in school,
Oh, yeah.
reciting dates and names like a robot.
Uh-huh.
The second the test was over,
Yeah.
oof, gone.
Gone.
The manual actually uses a great anecdote about Bertrand Russell to illustrate this.
Yes. The story about Russell being forced to memorize a mathematical formula
Right.
without understanding its meaning really highlights the pitfalls of rote learning.
Okay.
It's like being handed the pieces of a puzzle without the picture on the box.
Yeah.
You might be able to force them together,
Right.
but you won't see the full image.
So how does the deep learning approach help us see the full picture?
It encourages us to be active participants in the learning process,
Okay.
to figure things out for ourselves instead of passively absorbing information.
Uh-huh.
And handwriting plays a key role in this.
Okay. I have to admit, the idea of ditching my laptop for a notebook seems a bit radical.
Yeah.
How does handwriting actually contribute to deep learning?
It all comes down to slowing down and engaging with material on a deeper level.
Okay.
When you write by hand, you're forced to process the information more thoroughly, making connections and forming a more lasting impression.
So it's not just about the act of writing itself,
Right.
but the mental processes it triggers.
Exactly.
Okay.
The manual introduces a concept called descriptive enumeration,
Okay.
which is essentially describing something from multiple unique perspectives, not just what it looks like,
Yeah.
but how it feels, smells,
Okay.
even sounds.
Okay.
Imagine trying to describe an apple to someone who's never seen one before.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying it's red and round,
Right?
you'd have to think about its texture,
Yeah.
its sweetness, the
Yeah.
sound it makes when you bite into it.
Right. You're engaging multiple senses
Yeah.
and forming a much richer, multi-dimensional understanding.
Okay.
It's like creating a mental map of the apple, not just a snapshot.
That reminds me of a story the manual mentions
Okay.
about Steve Jobs and Edwin Land, the inventor of the Polaroid camera.
Yeah?
They were both observed staring intently at an empty table
Yeah.
during a meeting.
Yes.
Oh,
As it turned out, both Jobs and Land were mentally visualizing their products,
wow.
the Macintosh and the Polaroid camera,
Uh-huh.
in vivid detail as though they already existed.
So they could see them.
It was as if they were discovering them, not just inventing them.
And the manual suggests that this capacity for discovery is within all of us.
Right.
But how do we tap into it?
Through deep learning practices,
Okay.
like descriptive enumeration and handwriting.
Okay.
These methods help us slow down, observe more carefully,
Uh-huh.
and make those crucial connections.
It's like we're rewiring our brains to learn in a more active, engaged way.
Exactly.
Now, the manual also delves into the topic of learning disabilities, but it takes a unique perspective.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that?
The manual introduces the concept of acquired learning disabilities, which are essentially negative learning habits we develop from prolonged exposure to surface-level learning.
Okay.
It suggests that these habits can hinder our ability to learn deeply.
So it's not just about inherent learning difficulties,
Right.
but learned behaviors that can hold us back.
Precisely.
Okay.
The manual shares a compelling story
Yeah.
about a math professor who had a student
Uh-huh.
who consistently performed poorly on exams,
Okay.
turning in papers filled with scribbles.
Oh, wow.
However, when questioned orally, the student could answer complex questions correctly.
Interesting.
It turned out that the student had developed a fear of writing
Okay.
based on past negative experiences.
Yeah.
And this fear was blocking his ability to express his knowledge.
That's really interesting. I can definitely relate to that feeling of knowing something,
Mm-hmm.
but not being able to articulate it clearly.
Right.
the manual suggests deep learning can help us overcome these acquired disabilities.
Yeah.
How do we even begin to address them?
The first step is to identify any deeply entrenched learning behaviors
Okay.
that might be holding you back.
Okay.
Do you avoid certain subjects or tasks because of past negative experiences? Do you feel like you're constantly cramming but never truly understanding?
Those are great questions to reflect on.
Yeah.
Once we identify these behaviors, what's the next step?
The manual encourages us to create a personal knowledge library.
Okay.
Think of it as your own personalized space where you can organize, connect, and build upon the knowledge you're acquiring.
So instead of just consuming information,
Right.
we're actively curating and building our own knowledge base.
Yes.
It's like creating our own mental encyclopedia.
Exactly.
Okay.
The manual suggests various tools for building this knowledge space, mind maps, wikis, even good old-fashioned notebooks.
Okay.
It's about finding what works best for you,
Right.
what helps you visualize and connect the dots in a way that makes sense to you.
Speaking of connecting the dots,
Yeah.
the manual introduces a really fascinating concept
Okay.
called the threefold structure of knowledge.
Right.
Can you explain what that is?
This concept emphasizes that knowledge always involves three key elements:
Okay.
an observer and observed,
Yeah.
and the act of observation itself.
Okay.
It's like a triangle. Each element is interconnected and influences the others.
So it's not just about the information itself,
Yeah.
but also our role in perceiving and interpreting it.
Exactly. The manual uses the conflict between Galileo and the Church to illustrate this concept.
Okay.
The Church, holding on to the subjective belief that Earth was the center of the universe,
Right.
clashed with Galileo's objective observations through his telescope,
Yeah.
which showed Earth revolving around the sun.
That's a powerful example of how our perspective can shape our understanding.
Yes.
So how do we apply this threefold structure to our own learning?
It encourages us to consider how our own beliefs, biases, and experiences influence what we observe and learn. We need to be aware of our own subjectivity
Right.
and how it shapes our understanding.
It's like acknowledging that we're not just passive recipients of information, but
Exactly.
active participants in shaping our own knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, another intriguing concept the manual introduces is the idea of engrams.
Okay.
Essentially, these are the traces of experiences that are stored in our brains, the building blocks of memory.
So they're like the imprints our experiences leave on our minds.
Yes. And the manual suggests that deep learning can help us rewire negative engrams,
Okay.
those limiting beliefs and fears,
Yeah.
and cultivate positive ones.
That's fascinating. So it's
Yeah.
not just about acquiring new knowledge,
Right.
but also about reshaping our existing mental framework.
Exactly.
Wow.
And for those ready to take their deep learning to the next level,
Yeah.
the manual introduces an advanced exercise,
Okay.
the 6 perspectives exercise.
Okay.
But before we dive into that,
Yeah.
let's take a quick break. We'll be right back after this short message.
Sounds good. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
We left off talking about this idea of engrams
Right.
and how they shape our learning.
Yes. Engrams are fascinating
Yeah.
because they highlight the plasticity of our brains, how our experiences, both positive and negative, can literally shape the physical structure of our minds.
So it's not just about filling our brains with information.
Right.
It's about understanding how that information interacts with our existing mental framework,
Exactly.
these engrams.
Precisely. And that's where deep learning comes in.
Okay.
It provides tools and techniques for consciously shaping our engrams, for cultivating positive ones and rewiring negative ones.
You mentioned an advanced exercise
Yeah.
called the 6 perspectives exercise before the break.
Right.
What exactly does that involve?
Imagine you're looking at a cube. You can see only one side at a time, right?
Right.
But to truly understand the cube, you need to view it from all 6 sides.
So the 6 perspectives exercise is about looking at a topic from multiple angles.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's based on a mathematical concept,
Uh-huh.
the dihedral group of order 6,
Okay.
which outlines the 6 possible ways to arrange the 3 core elements of knowledge:
Yeah.
the observer, the observed, and the act of observation.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this ties into the threefold structure of knowledge we discussed earlier.
Right. The 6 perspectives exercise takes that concept a step further
Okay.
and provides a framework for systematically exploring a topic from all those different viewpoints.
Can you give us an example of how this would work in practice?
Let's say you're trying to understand the concept of democracy.
Okay.
The first perspective would be you, the learner. actively studying democracy as a concept.
That's our usual approach, right? Reading books, watching documentaries, researching online.
Yes. But then we shift gears. The second perspective focuses on how you, the learner, are influencing the process of learning about democracy. What are your biases? What assumptions are you bringing to the table?
That's interesting. It forces us to be aware of our own subjectivity and how it might be shaping our understanding.
Then we move to the empathy perspectives. We
Okay.
try to see the world through the eyes of democracy itself.
Wow.
What would it be like to be a system of governance based on the will of the people? What challenges would you face? What strengths would you possess?
That's a powerful way to gain a deeper understanding of a concept. It's like stepping into its shoes and experiencing it from the inside out.
Exactly. And then we have the process perspectives.
Okay.
We focus on the act of learning itself and how it shapes both the learner and the observed. How does the process of learning about democracy transform our understanding of the world? And how does our engagement with democracy as a concept influence its evolution?
It's fascinating to think about how knowledge isn't static. It's a dynamic, interactive process.
Right. And the Six Perspectives exercise helps us appreciate that dynamism by challenging us to step outside our usual way of thinking.
The manual also suggests applying this exercise to personal challenges. It's
Absolutely.
not just abstract concepts.
Let's say you're facing a difficult decision in your life.
Okay.
You could use the Six Perspectives exercise to explore the situation from multiple angles, gaining a more comprehensive understanding of the problem and potential solutions.
It's like using this exercise as a tool for personal growth and self-discovery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the manual encourages us to write down any insights, connections that emerge during this process.
Okay.
It's about actively engaging with knowledge and making it our own.
Now, I know this might sound a bit intimidating for someone just starting their deep learning journey.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
The manual recommends starting with a topic you're already familiar with, something you've already done a descriptive enumeration exercise on.
So it's about building on existing knowledge and gradually expanding our perspective.
Exactly. Start small, get comfortable with the process, and then gradually challenge yourself with more complex topics.
It's like training our brains to be more flexible and adaptable.
Precisely.
Okay.
And the Six Perspectives exercise is just one of many tools. The Deep Learning Manual provides for cultivating deep learning habits.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
there's one more intriguing concept from the manual we haven't yet touched on.
Okay.
This idea of discovering your unique signature.
Ah, yes. This is where things get really exciting. It's about moving beyond just acquiring knowledge
Yeah.
and stepping into the realm of self-discovery and creative expression.
It sounds almost mystical.
It's not about handwriting styles or personal branding.
Okay.
It's about uncovering your unique way of seeing and interacting with the world, your personal lens through which you interpret everything.
So it's about finding your voice, your own distinct way of expressing yourself and contributing to the world.
Exactly. The manual suggests that deep learning can help us uncover and refine this signature by engaging deeply with knowledge, exploring different perspectives, and connecting the dots in our own unique way. We develop a richer understanding of ourselves and our place in the world.
It's like we're each given a blank canvas.
Yeah.
And through deep learning, we become artists, painting our own masterpiece.
That's a beautiful analogy. It highlights the creative potential that lies within each of us.
But how do we actually go about discovering this unique signature? What does that process look like? It really is an intriguing idea.
It is.
And I'm curious,
Yeah.
how do we actually begin to uncover this signature? Is it something we actively search for, or does it just emerge organically as we engage in deep learning?
It's a bit of both, actually. The manual suggests that deep learning provides the tools and the framework, but it's up to each individual to do the work, to engage with the material, and allow their unique perspective to emerge.
That makes sense. It's like learning to play a musical instrument.
Right.
You can have the best teacher and the finest instrument, but you still need to practice. You need to experiment and find your own unique voice.
Precisely. And just like a musician develops their style over time, our signature evolves and becomes more refined as we continue to learn and grow.
It's almost like deep learning is a form of self-discovery.
Right.
A journey of peeling back the layers. And uncovering the hidden depths within ourselves.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Thanks.
And the Deep Learning Manual acts as a guidebook for this journey. It provides the map, but we are the explorers, charting our own course and making our own discoveries.
This whole deep dive has been incredibly insightful.
Oh, good.
The Deep Learning Manual offers such a refreshing perspective on how we approach learning.
I think so, too.
It's not just about absorbing information.
Right.
It's about actively engaging with it.
Yes.
Making connections.
And
constantly seeking deeper understanding.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Thanks.
It challenges the traditional notion of learning as a chore.
Yeah.
And reminds us that it can be a joyful, transformative process that leads to remarkable personal growth.
I'm excited to put some of these principles into practice, to ditch the screens,
Yeah.
embrace the simplicity of a pencil and paper,
Right.
and see where this journey takes me.
And remember, the journey begins with a single step. A step towards curiosity, towards self-reflection, towards embracing the unknown.
Right, okay.
So grab a pencil, find a blank sheet of paper, and start exploring what wonders await you.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the Deep Learning Manual. It's been a truly enlightening conversation.
The pleasure was all mine. Happy learning.